Hey everyone, I'm Nick from Coffee Before Arch, and in this episode of the Systems Programming series, we're going to be talking about the write system call. So just to kind of give us a brief summary of what we've learned so far, so we've learned about what are system calls and systems programming in general. We've also learned about basic things to do with files, so we want to be able to open files and close files, and we'd also want to know how to create files. And then we started looking at what we do with files, which is mainly reading and writing. So last time we looked at reading, and this time we'll look at writing. So if we'll go ahead and open up our example, write.c, we'll see it's very similar to our example from last time, which was for reading. Now, one of the differences being that when we open the file, we have to open it in the write-only mode or the read-write mode. In this case, we'll just do write-only. And then we'll go ahead and add this additional flag, which is for appending, right? So if we want to make sure that whatever our data is gets added to the end of the file and we don't clear the file contents, we can go ahead and make sure that we add this append. Now we could also add the truncation flag if we just wanted to clear the file and get rid of everything and start from scratch. And we'll show that how that looks at the very end. So the message we're actually going to write is pretty simple. It's pretty short too. It's just going to be "this is a test message." And we're going to write that to the file we're opening, which is test.txt. So test.txt exists in this directory, and that's this is a sample file. That's all it says. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is the exact same kind of loop that we had previously, which was this while loop that checks two conditions. One, if the length is not equal to 0, and then if the return value is not equal to 0. So the return value here, this is a little more of a special case. So with reads, a return value of 0 means we've really hit the end of the file. But with writes, this is really something that typically you don't ever expect to happen. If there's a problem that happens during a write, you expect error number to be set, right? And so you get a return of -1. So in most cases, you can just return, or you can just ignore the case where write will return 0. Maybe in some very fringe, very special legacy case, would you actually have to care about write returning a 0. But in most cases, you can just ignore it. In this case, we'll leave it in because it's not going to cause any harm. So write is going to work the exact same way as read in terms of the arguments we're going to give it, which is the file descriptor. Then we're going to give it what position in the pointer we're at. So we can have partial writes just like we can have partial reads. So message is our pointer to our characters that we're going to write to that file, right? And we'll increment position every iteration of this loop based upon how big of our write, or how big our write was on that iteration. That way we're moving that pointer along. We're making sure that we're writing data that we haven't written before. If we get a problem, so if return is equal to -1, we'll go ahead and just check this signal that says that some error occurred with the write before anything was written, so it's safe to reissue. And so if that's the case, we'll go ahead and continue. We'll skip the updates to length and position, and we'll try it again. Otherwise, we'll update length and position, so length being how much we have left to write to the file, and then position being where is our position in that string that we're writing. Then we'll go ahead and print out how many bytes were written, what length is, and then what the new position is. Then at the very end, we'll go ahead and close the file descriptor, and we'll print write completed, and then we can just check the file that we wrote to, which is that test.txt. So we compile this with GCC again. So we'll compile write.c, and if we go ahead and do this, we see written 23 bytes, updated length to 0, so we've written the entire string, and updated the position to 23, right? So we move that pointer all the way to the end of that string that we're printing or writing to that file. And so if we open up test.txt, we see that now we have 2 lines in here, right? And if we go ahead and write again, and we open it back up, we see that we've written another "this is a test message." So we didn't add a new line character inside of that string, which is why it got written on the same line. Okay. So what if we wanted to clear the file contents first? Well, then we'd have to change this oappend to otrunc, and then we'd recompile, and then let's go ahead and call our program again. So exact same thing. We wrote 23 bytes, updated length to 0, updated position to 23. But when we open up test.txt, we see we only have a single line in there, which is the line that we were planning on writing, that this is a test message. And if we call this multiple times, right, so we do this multiple times and we go ahead and open up that file, which is going to be that test.txt, we see that it's not going to keep appending and adding more text to that file. It's going to clear it every single time when it opens it. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this example. So that's a basic way how to use the write system call, of course, in conjunction with open and close in order to do something that's normally abstracted away from you through some kind of interface of a higher level language. Of course, all of this code is available on github.com/coffeebeforearch. So we've got links to all my other series, so the C++ one, Python, GPU programming with CUDA, parallel programming in C++. So if we go to the repositories though, we've got one on systems programming, and there'll be links to all the YouTube videos on the left, all the files on the right. So in this one, we're still in file.io and we're looking at write.c. So feel free to download this and play around with it and let me know if you have any questions. Additionally, there's something new kind of coming out. So if you go ahead and go to my Twitter, which is at AcceleratorNick, so there's a new book that I'm writing called A Tour of Programming, and it's basically going to have the same guides that I have in the YouTube videos, but it's going to be written down now. So I've got the introduction and links to all my stuff, and you can see basically what the topics that I have planned to include. And most of these are things that I already have tutorials out for right now. Some of it is stuff that I will have in the future, but you can expect constant updates to this, and that way if you don't want to, have to go over and watch a YouTube video if you're trying to learn something or trying to study something, you can go ahead and use this as a reference instead. But that's going to do it for today. I'm Nick from Coffee Before Arch, and I hope you have a nice day.